What would your government do to protect the rich but rapidly disappearing agricultural lands in York Simcoe as greedy developers leapfrog over the Oak Ridges moraine and gobble up the food basket of the country?
What we need is political will. We've got the laws in place, we've got the protections in place, but you know what? When it comes to somebody making a little money, oh geez, you know, maybe we can make a little exception here and a little exception there. The Oak Ridges moraine is gradually disappearing one roadway and one pipeline at a time. And in Bradford, we're seeing farmland gobbled up. Part of why I ran is I ride around with this woman that says, you know, last year there was corn planted over there. Now look, there's houses. What are we going to eat? We have to make farmland sacred, and you just don't touch it. We have to do the same thing with green spaces. We have to limit development to where the areas that it's in, because, like my grandfather said, they're not making any more farmland. They're not making any more marshes. And Holland Marsh is unique in Canada. We have to protect this for our children.
I believe that there should be a balance between development and the environment and the economy and all these things. They're all important, but it's a balancing act. The regulation is there. Once again, it's an issue with the enforcement. We know that there's a lot of backroom deals that allow developers to go and build and exempt them from the growth limits that are put in place. Those need to stop. There's also the whole issue of slap lawsuits, where developers silence the local opposition to things like mega projects like the quarry and anything to do with Lake Simcoe, the peaker plant. Slap lawsuits under the NDP will become illegal. There's no way a developer should be able to use their influence, their power, their money, their panel of lawyers to silence local opposition. Local opposition should be heard and needs to be heard.
This is a very important question. We absolutely have to protect our farmland, particularly here. The economic benefit that's coming to this region, to this riding, is phenomenal. We need to support our farmers, and to that end, the Liberal government implemented and approved the risk management plan. This is a plan that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture asked for. They almost wrote the legislation for us, and they are very happy to receiving it. In terms of the Oak Ridges moraine, we have been very, very careful to make sure that the water, the aquifers, the landform is adequately maintained so that in the future we are able to have clean drinking water. Our government stepped up to the plate recently and called for a full environmental assessment against the mega quarry in Melanthon, and Mr. Hudak still to this day has not finished or completed or submitted the survey that the group fighting that quarry asked for. We stepped up to the plate and did it.
There are a couple of points I'd like to make. Someone mentioned about the political will. It translates into legislation. When the Greenbelt encircled the area a few years ago, everyone said, including me in Hansard, that the only thing that this would do is force development to go into South Simcoe. And so when you see the development that's in Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and parts of Innisfil, it is as a direct result. You also have a piece of legislation that updated the Municipal Act and allowed ministerial zoning orders, which mean that the minister can simply insert himself into a local land use planning process and determine its outcome, by the way, with no appeal. The question of agriculture, I think, cannot be just the question of land. It has to be a planning process that recognizes the importance of agribusiness. It's more than just fields and trees. It is an economic driver, as Gloria mentioned. And an economic driver has to have supports, has to have ancillary businesses. And so planning then that looks at the needs of agriculture would solve that issue about the land use.
What would your government do to support seniors as they try to age in place, maintain their dignity and self-worth in their own homes?
Sure. A key to this, I think, is the development of community health centers where not only seniors but everyone can get health care in their own communities. The other thing is we need to look at is preventative health maintenance and providing for that. We also need to start forcing, requiring, legislating, whatever the correct word is, that every development, every developer, every new development that's built, there is both affordable housing as part of that development and accessible affordable housing for seniors in that development. I know we live in Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and when my wife and I get the age that we're going to retire, we're going to move somewhere else because there is absolutely no allowance for seniors in Bradford. And we have to correct that not in Bradford, not just in Bradford, but all over the province. Thank you.
That's very true. It is a big issue. To touch on a few different things, we are going to implement nurse practitioner-led clinics. There's currently, I believe, 8 in production out of the 25 that were promised by the McGuinty government to be open by 2011. We're going to make good on those promises. We are going to implement community health centers so you can go to the same location for your doctor, for your ultrasound, for your blood work. We have a whole program for long-term home support. We think seniors should be able to stay in their homes for as long as they want to. They shouldn't be forced to move to a retirement community if they don't want to. We're going to provide the support for them and their families to stay in their home for as long as they desire. We're going to invest more money in frontline health care because frontline health care is extremely important. Primary health care, a lot of Canadians don't have accesses to doctors or nurses. By eliminating the, by capping the amount of public CEO salaries to double what the premier makes, we're going to be able to invest a lot more money in frontline health care, and it'll make a huge difference. Thank you.
The McGuinty government realizes that seniors want to stay in their home as long as they can. That's where they belong and that's where they deserve to be. We have done so many things for the senior population and look forward in our platform to continuing to expand that. We are very committed to that happening. So, in my knocking door to door, I've heard so many complaints about a lack of a family doctor, a lack of facilities, busing, all the things that seniors need in order to stay in their homes. So, I made a commitment the Bradford Family Healthcare team needs to come to Bradford. Now that doesn't directly impact this area of the riding, but it's something that needs to happen. We definitely move forward with healthcare practitioners. That's been our program that we brought forward and is going to be extremely helpful. We have committed to 35,000 long-term care beds being retrofitted. Thank you.
I, first of all, would just say that certainly in my role as the sitting member, I'm very much aware of reduced access in numbers of hours for seniors from the CCAC. And so I would just say that it's a huge issue. Obviously, keeping people in their homes is something that we all agree on. But there certainly are examples where decisions have been made, like a 94-year-old who had to go to a clinic once a month instead of having somebody drop in once a month. You really wonder about how cost-effective that is. In terms of our platform, we've made it very clear that frontline healthcare is the primary concern that we have over providing healthcare. And I mentioned earlier our commitment to increasing the funding. We've also done something a little different in that we've offered gas tax to all municipalities. Currently, only those that have transit systems are eligible. But we feel that municipalities can make their own decisions, and that then they can use the money for either the development of a transit system or bridges or roads, whatever they choose to do. This is an important feature for seniors to consider.
So the next question is, what would your government do about the bridge to nowhere that has spanned Mount Albert Road just west of Woodbine for a couple of years? Will there ever be a 404 extension?
We are working, as you know, the current government has restarted the process, and I believe that at this point we're looking at about 2012. The mayor of Georgina, I think, told me most recently that it would be complete to Raven-Shoe.
If I'm not familiar with this, I have to be honest. The only 404 extension I'm familiar with is going up through towards Raven-Shoe. Is that what we're talking about? Okay, I've seen that. It's under construction. And I think it demonstrates why we need to look at what we're doing with roads. We've taken acres and acres and acres of forest and farmland and converted it for transit. There's got to be a better way to do it, possibly some rapid transit, possibly reconditioning, rethinking the way we do roads. But what might make more sense is moving the jobs to where the people are. And that can be done through tax incentives. That can be done through provincial programs. If we move the jobs where the people are, then we wouldn't have needed the 404 extension.
It is a whole urban planning issue. We create bedroom communities, and then we create 2-hour commutes. We do have the longest commute time in North America, I believe, in Toronto, and I do know a lot of people here do commute to Toronto. The NDP are committed to $35 billion in infrastructure spending, so obviously with that money, the 404 extension should be completed. There's really no point in having it half built. It's there, we may as well finish it. But beyond that, before we build more extensions of highways, we should look into alternatives like public transit, like having jobs up here. We really don't have many transit options up this way. Here you can get the GO, and I believe YRT might run up this way, but as soon as you move about 5 minutes down the road, it stops. So there are definitely alternatives out there that should be looked into.
The project will be finished by 2012. It is necessary. When I met with the mayor of East Gwillimbury, this was one of the things that she talked about. It needs to help get the traffic off the local roads here that are impacting your quality of life in East Gwillimbury. You are fortunate. You are receiving busing through York Region. That is covered out of the gas tax. $34 million came in gas tax to York Region this year. I just wanted to correct, Barrie Transit since 2003 has received $11.6 million. That's quite a lot of money in gas tax to provide their transit to service the very large city. So in order to have meaningful infrastructure, roads, busing, there needs to be a plan made, and that's the reason for official plans through the York Region.